Brazil's political world was rocked this week as the Supreme Court convicted former President Jair Bolsonaro for trying to overturn the 2022 election. Bolsonaro, now the first ex-president found guilty of such charges, faces a historic reckoning. The trial, watched globally, capped years of turmoil after Bolsonaro's baseless claims of election fraud. The verdict has deepened divisions in Brazil, with some hailing it as a defense of democracy and others calling it a political attack. Supporters and opponents flooded the streets, reflecting a nation split by the outcome. The ruling, broadcast live, confirmed Bolsonaro's guilt on all counts, setting a powerful legal precedent. The decision's impact reaches beyond Brazil, straining ties with the United States and igniting international debate. The alliance between Bolsonaro and U.S. President Donald Trump has turned this legal battle into a global flashpoint. This is more than the fate of one man. It's a test of democratic institutions and the future of U.S.-Brazil relations. As Brazil faces the consequences, its relationship with the U.S. stands at a crossroads. The Supreme Court's ruling was based on grave charges. Bolsonaro was found guilty of plotting a coup and leading an armed criminal group. Evidence showed he tried to cling to power after losing the 2022 election, even considering violence against his successor and top officials. The court linked him directly to the January 8 riots, where his supporters stormed government buildings. Bolsonaro's rhetoric was found to have incited the attack, making him legally responsible for one of Brazil's darkest days. The sentence, 27 years in prison, underscoring the threat he posed to democracy. Bolsonaro's lawyers planned to appeal, but with little hope, only one judge dissented. Meanwhile, his allies in Congress push for an amnesty law to shield him from prison. Where he'll serve his sentence remains uncertain, highlighting his unique status as a former president. The legal and political battles are far from over. The U.S. response to Bolsonaro's conviction was immediate and fierce, led by President Trump. Even before the verdict, Trump imposed 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods, citing attacks on free elections. After the ruling, Trump called Bolsonaro a victim of political persecution, escalating tensions further. The White House and State Department echoed this stance, hinting at more economic and military pressure. The U.S. even sanctioned Justice Alexandre de Moraes, accusing him of politicizing prosecutions. Secretary of State Marco Rubio condemned the verdict, promising retaliation. U.S. officials dismissed Brazil's legal process as illegitimate, framing it as a political witch hunt. This has turned Bolsonaro's case into a major U.S. foreign policy issue, straining the partnership. The Trump administration's unwavering support for Bolsonaro risks alienating Brazil's government and people. U.S.-Brazil relations are now at their most fragile point in decades. President Lula has responded to U.S. pressure with defiance, rejecting what he calls unacceptable interference. After the U.S. imposed harsh tariffs, Lula declared Brazil would not accept outside instruction. Brazil filed a formal complaint with the World Trade Organization challenging the tariffs as illegal. Lula's government is rallying international support seeking to isolate the U.S. diplomatically. Brazil is also exploring legal action in U.S. courts, determined to fight back on every front. The dispute has pushed Brazil to diversify its partnerships, strengthening ties with China and the EU. Tensions have grown with the U.S. naval deployment in the Caribbean, which Lula calls a factor of tension. Many in the region fear the deployment could be a pretext for action against Venezuela, raising regional alarm. The diplomatic standoff has deepened mistrust and forced Brazil to rethink its global alliances. The relationship between the two countries is now defined by confrontation, not cooperation. Bolsonaro's conviction has split Brazil even further. Celebrations erupted among Lula's supporters who see the verdict as justice and a victory for democracy. Bolsonaro's followers, convinced of his innocence, rallied in protest, denouncing the court as biased. The country's deep polarization remains, with both sides entrenched and unrest a constant risk. Bolsonaro's legacy will continue to shape politics whether he's behind bars or not. U.S.-Brazil relations are now mired in mistrust, with trade disputes and diplomatic tensions unresolved. The personal alliance between Trump and Bolsonaro has made reconciliation even harder. The fallout could reshape alliances and trade in the Americas for years to come. The historic verdict has set Brazil and the U.S. on a collision course with no clear end in sight.